water chestnut cake. And for those of you who have never had water chestnuts before, it is super crispy, sort of like a pear, but the flavor reminds me of kind of like a less sweet but fresh sugar cane. So there's still like a slightly vegetal flavor to it, but it's nice and sweet. And the texture of this cake is not like your typical cake. It's more of like a gelatinous kind of cake that, you know, Asian people usually have. It's actually eaten during New Year's, but I kind of just like to have it sometimes just because it is so refreshing and it's not as heavy as usual cakes, so I can have a slice after dinner and still feel kind of okay. So I can't wait to show you guys this recipe, so let's head over to the kitchen and then let's get started. Okay guys, so I'm going to start off with about 1 1/4 sticks of this Chinese slab sugar, which can easily be substituted for just some brown sugar, and each slab has about 75 grams of sugar in it, so I'll put the equivalent down below. Next, I'm mixing it with 2 cups of warm water. I'm just going to bring it to a boil, and then once the sugar melts, I'm going to turn off the heat. So this is a can of the water chestnuts, star of the show, and you need about, I'd say about 10 to 12 water chestnuts, and you can get them fresh, but sometimes they're harder to find, they're not in season, and it's a pain to just peel. So I actually find that the canned water chestnuts are actually pretty crunchy as well, so I don't mind using it, and they're nice and sweet as well. So you either want to dice these up, or I actually just cut them into slices. I think that they're prettier that way, but you know, you want to keep them fairly big so that they're still nice and crunchy. So here I have a 1/2 cup of cold water and then a teaspoon of vegetable oil, which will keep everything kind of nice and soft. And I'm adding in, this is the water chestnut flour. So it's a little bit over a cup. It looks something like this, and it's basically the starch from the water chestnut. And anytime you're working with a starch, you definitely, before adding it to a hot liquid, you want to kind of dissolve everything and make sure that there are no lumps, and mix everything well in a cold liquid, because then it doesn't create lumps before you add it into that warm liquid. So I'm just giving it a final stir, because sometimes the starch settles to the bottom if it's, you know, been around somewhere. So that mixture has actually cooled, and I am going to bring it back up to a light boil. So I'm just going to turn it on to medium heat and have this slowly thicken up, because if you do it too quickly, sometimes there are lumps, sometimes it starts burning, and you don't want any of this process to go too quickly. So just a gentle medium heat. As soon as it starts getting kind of thicker, I switched over to a spatula so that I can get the sides nice like this. Now you're actually going to be steaming it one more time, so no worries about not cooking this properly, but you do want to kind of get it into this kind of like goop, kind of glue-like consistency, but not much thicker than that, okay? After it gets to this, just simply shut the heat off. So I have a pan that's about 6 by 6 inches that I'm just oiling, because this cake can get very sticky. So in goes everything. I'm just going to use the spatula. You can push it down and just make sure that there are no like holes in between, because it's going to become one big cake afterwards. And then an offset spatula, or just, you know, the back of a spoon or something, and then just to make sure that you have a nice flat surface. So I'm just going to put this into a steamer on high heat for about 20 to 30 minutes, up until this guy gets translucent. I actually let this guy sit for a little bit, so the top's cracked a little bit, but you can see that once it is cooked, it is harder as well. So I'm just going to put a piece of saran wrap on top and then stick it into the refrigerator, because although it is set right now, you want to eat it probably cold. So just a couple of hours like that, and then I'm just gonna take one of those like cake things and then just flip this guy over. It comes off pretty easily because we had greased the pan as well. So I'm going to cut the 4 sides just to make sure that everything is nice and pretty for presentation. And I know a lot of people just like to cut it into, you know, about like 1-inch slices, and then they might actually pan fry it as well, just to get it a little bit crunchy. I personally just kind of like it like this, kind of like a jello type deal, and I cut it pretty much bigger as well. And that is really it for your cake, or like a jello / pudding. I really like the flavor of water chestnuts and how it's sweetened as well, because it's kind of like a very gentle sweetness. It's sweet, but like not too sweet, and with the water chestnuts on the inside, it provides a really nice crunch, and the water chestnut starch kind of gives you a set of, I'd say it's similar to cornstarch as well, where it's not like agar at all, because agar is kind of like a crunchy jello. This is more of like a softer pudding-ish jello, if I can describe it like that. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I know it was a little bit different. As usual, if you want to see more recipes like this, remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!